Good to be with you on the program again tonight. We are going to look first at three things: God, family, and your nation. These are three things that makes up the whole of any people, a nation of people. There has to be, number one, a righteous God. There has to be, number two, a very strong family. And without a righteous God, there cannot be a strong family. Because the only strong family that there's going to be is going to be one that has been raised in the admonition of the Lord. So there has to be a strong nation. Therefore, there has to be a right and righteous government. There has to be a strong nation. There has to be a strong family. And it all has to revolve around God. So it is God, it is your family, it is your nation. It is a trinity that works together. And unless those three things are tied into one, it's simply not going to work. Now, we have seen the dissolving and the destruction of the American family throughout the years. The leftists, the communists, the socialists, who well know exactly the art of destroying. And it is a biblical principle. And it is that if you divide, you can conquer. Jesus said it and said it clear and said it very plain. That if you divide a nation against itself, the nation cannot stand. Any home divided against itself cannot stand. Nothing that is divided, nothing that is separated can possibly be unified at the same time. It cannot stand. In other words, it comes apart. To divide is to bring apart. To sow confusion is the breaking of a fuse or a fusion. Con means against. Fusion means united. Confuse is to be against unity, to be a divider. And the Bible tells us that we know that confusion does not come from God. We know who confusion comes from. He that seeks to divide a people from its God, a people from its nation, divide a people against itself, that it may conquer. Those who understand and those who don't even understand the working and the principles of Satan, but yet who are pawns and willful pawns in the hand of satanic adversaries and satanic powers and Satan himself, can become very destructive tools and very proficient in it, not knowing nor realizing exactly what they're even doing as a demon spirit leads them and guides them. We must be a strong nation. We must have a righteous God. And we must be a unified people. Now, that's what marks the history of America. And with that said, let me say this. America is not a racist country. The question would have to be asked, if a nation was racist, what part of the nation would it be that would have to be racist? What percentage? Would it be 50% to be a racist nation? Would it require 70%? Or would it require 51% to be a racist nation? If you had 49% that was not racist, and you had 51% that was racist, would that then qualify for a racist nation? Or would it take 60 or 70%? Would it take 1%? Is 4%, 5%, 1%? Is that all it takes? If you have 1% of a population, let's say you have 4.5% of a population of 350 million people. If 4%, that is 4 out of every 100 people, 4 out of every 100 people, out of every 100 people, 4 people within that 100 has racist views. Do you then take that 100, the 96 that's left, and label them as racist because of the 4%? What if it was 1% or 1.5%? Well, let's say 1%. If you had 1% of a nation of 350 million people that carried racist views, truly and purely racist views, would that 1%, that's one person out of every 100, because that one person carried a racist view, would we then say that the 99 are then racist? My point is very simple. My purpose and my point is to unify. And I don't have any idea how to do that, but the presentation of truth in a spirit of love. I don't hate anybody. I've never hated anybody. How do we combat those who present lies and false facts for the sole purpose of hypnotizing, mesmerizing, brainwashing a mass of ignorant, unlearned, and unknowing people? But to tell the truth. The entire Bible is built upon this simple principle, that light is what manifests, and anything that doth manifest, the Bible said, is light. We don't have to manifest in spirits of hate. I remember Evander Holyfield, whenever he fought Mike Tyson, the media was trying to drum up this hate war between them with a rhetoric to sell tickets. And I remember Evander Holyfield, a good Christian man. I remember Evander Holyfield saying, I don't have to hate who I box. Well, there it is. We must manifest light and truth. There is not another way to do it. You have to deal with what is being said. That are the words, that are the divisive words. You have to deal with those words. If the words that's coming out of somebody's mouth, if they are divisive, you have to deal with those words. And you cannot deal with those words without dealing with the person who said the words, who is using the words for the purpose of dividing. The Bible says to speak the truth in love, but for God's sake, speak the truth. If the truth is absent, there is no hope to overcome the shadow of the lie or the darkness of the lie. If the truth is, listen, this is one of the reasons why I know that the radical homosexual agenda and those that's a part of it, this is why I know that it's evil. Because they want to shut me up. They want to shut you up. They want to shut any criticism of them up. You see, nobody desires to stop the argument of another person except for a person who realizes that the other person's argument makes more sense and is stronger than his own argument. Their only defense then is to by some means suppress, oppress, persecute those who have different opinions so that their opinion can be the only opinion heard. So I know that the radical homosexual agenda, who is trying to stop me and make it illegal for me to read parts of my Bible. In Canada, it's already the law. You read the part of the Bible that tells us that if a man lieth with a man, as he lieth with a woman, they have committed abomination to the Lord. It's already against the law in Canada to read it. They want to make it against the law here to read it. How come I can't read my Bible? If you get your rights and you've got the right to marry, how come I can't read my Bible? How come if you bring your point of views and your perversion, if you bring it out of your house and out of your quarters, out into the public domain, how come I can't answer it? The only one that would try to suppress that and try to stop that is someone who can't afford for the other side to be heard. Therefore, you know that it's evil, because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. If the Lord is in it, there is freedom, there is liberty. So, anyone, in order to get their way, that has to persecute or prosecute or harm others and take their liberty of speech, which then is the liberty of thinking, away from them, has removed by doing so the very Spirit of God. And no one but the evil and the wicked would desire in any way, form, or shape to remove the presence of God. Now, with that said, we're going to look tonight at some things that's greatly affecting our nation right now. And if it was not affecting our nation, if it was not a threat to me and a threat to you, a threat to our police officers, I wouldn't bring it up. The Bible tells us in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8, chapter 9, the Bible tells us there that God finally had enough of the evil that was being done in Israel and in Jerusalem. And God sent angels to destroy the city. And when God sent angels to destroy the city, He sent one before the destroyers began their destruction, sent one, the Bible said, with the writer's inkhorn. And God said that you seal in the forehead all of those who have cried and sighed against the abominations of the land. In other words, there were still those, though Jerusalem had become a pot of abomination. There were still those within it, that remnant that's always present, that sincerely from their heart cried and sighed against the abominations that was done. And the Lord said these would be the ones that would be protected, the ones that would be sealed. They were sealed and they were protected when the judgment came. I would like to know and I would like to think that if I've done nothing else, then I have cried and sighed against the abomination. Not just to do it, but because it's a fire shut up in my bones, as it should be all of ours, to cry and sigh against the abominations of a land. They destroy, they break down, and it's exactly what's happening now. Now, I've shown you 2 weeks, not back to back, but I've shown you 2 times the speech that Louis Farrakhan gave in Miami, Florida. In that speech, Louis Farrakhan openly called for the killing of those that was killing his people, referring to white people and referring to the police. I had pointed out in those programs that Mr. Farrakhan had in fact incited murder. It's against the law to incite a riot. This man incites murder, saying he wants 10,000 of his people who's not afraid to die, who's not afraid to go to jail, to go out and kill them, he said, that kill us. I've played it for you twice. I'm not going to play it again tonight. That's inciting murder. Immediately following that, we're having one policeman killed daily now across the nation, and sometimes more. There is no question who's doing it. There is no question at whose command they are doing it. Barack Obama, whom Louis Farrakhan said was raised at his table, has sent no one to question Mr. Farrakhan, has sent no one to jail Mr. Farrakhan, has not uttered a word about, well, the table he was raised at and the head of that table of which he was raised at, openly calling for 10,000 of his men to kill, to murder. Now, there was also, if you recall, the situation that took place in Carolina, where the boy went in and killed the 9 people in the church. Now, those people at that church and in that city had a wonderful prayer gathering. There was whites and blacks in large numbers of Christian people doing what they do, praying together and understanding that evil is not wrapped up in a color. It's wrapped up in a being. Evil is Satan. Satan is evil. And the souls and the hearts, be they red, white, yellow, or brown, the souls and the heart that allows his evil to enter into them will, as Jesus said, do the works of their Father. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Nonetheless, we saw a beautiful coming together of community. Nobody condoned what this insane murderer did. Nobody supports it in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Nobody did. And the people, the good Christian people, white and black, in Carolina came together and prayed and joined together. The leader of the Black Panthers went to Carolina also. But he went to drum up the field slaves. Those were his words. And to incite them now to do as Denmark VCs, of which I presented to you not long ago, had said, to kill all of the slave masters and to kill all of their children. And so the Black Panther leader is Shambaz, or whatever his name is, goes down there and he wants them to now rise up and kill. He wants the slave. He wants the field slave. That's who he said. He wants the field slave to rise up now and kill all the slave owners and all the slave owners' children. That's what he's asking them to do. I'm going to play it for you here in a minute. He wants them to kill all of the slave masters. Denmark VCs, as I had pointed out to you in an earlier program, Denmark VCs, when you go back to his date of birth, is in the 1700s. The 1700s? This Black Panther leader has to go back to the 1700s to drum up support for what he's trying to do today in 2015. He's addressing at this meeting field slaves. I ask you, brothers and sisters, white and black, do you know any field slaves? He is telling the people to kill the slave owners and the slave owners' children. I ask you, brothers and sisters, do you know any slave owners? I told you a moment ago that going back to America's raw history, America has never been a racist nation. I'd made the point earlier in the program. What portion of a nation has to be racist in order to categorize the entire nation as being a racist nation? 50%, 51%, 1%, 4%. I use those numbers because these are the facts. Pre-Civil War days, 4.5% of those who lived in the South owned slaves. That's 4 people out of every 100 owned slaves. So does 4% make a whole nation racist? Certainly not. Then nationwide, there was 22 million whites at that time. Nationwide, only 1.3% of whites in America owned slaves. 1.3%. Basically, one person out of every 100 people owned a slave. So, do you say, if you see 1 yard, that the grass is brown, and you see 99 yards that's green, do you conclude then that grass is supposed to be brown because 1 yard of the 100 had brown grass in it? This is absurd. America fought against slavery. 4.5% in the South owned slaves. Nationwide, 1.3% of Americans white Americans owned slaves. But during that same period of time, of the free blacks, they owned 28% of them owned slaves. And the first legal slave owner in America by court order was Anthony Johnson, a black man. What I've said in the past before is very simple. There is nobody whose hands has not been dirtied over the entire earth, going back to Egypt when they enslaved Israel to this present day. No nation and no people on this earth has spotless hands whenever it comes to slavery. And that includes the black nations and black people. America fought against slavery. America ended slavery in this country. And America fought firmly for the rights of all of its people. And Americans, white and black, marched together to see that that was done. America is not and has never been a racist nation. That is a fact. Now, I want to bring attention to this video where this Black Panther leader is addressing the field slaves. I want you to hear what he says first, and then we're going to come back for purely educational reasons and analyze what is actually going on. Listen to what he says.
Let this cracker hear you. We come to help you. Denmark VC had a plan to kill all the slave masters in the state. Denmark VC had a plan to kill every last one of them and kill all of their damn families. And we need some new Denmark VCs today. But somebody has to come here and fire up the field slave.
Okay, so he's went there to fire up field slaves that don't exist. He now wants them to carry out the mission of Denmark VCs, of whom you have to go back to the 1700s to even find out who he was. Denmark VCs was going to kill all the slave masters and all of his children. But since today there are no field slaves and there are no slaves and slave masters, then anyone, Mr. Shambaz or whatever your name is, that you would kill then would be innocent of the charge of which they were being killed for. That then is cold-blooded murder, sir. And then he condemns the people who suffered the event, the people of that church, that he said was not the true children. He's talking about the black people in the church in Charleston that suffered this event. He's saying they're not the true children of Denmark. You see, black people are suffering today from exactly what white people were suffering from under the Klan. It wasn't that the majority of America was Klan, nor even agreed with them. The large majority didn't agree with them. But if you disagreed with them, you got punished by them too. And so you was intimidated. Same thing's happening now with these black Klansmen, like this Shambaz. Same thing's happening with them. If you don't do what they tell you to do and act like they tell you to act, well, they'll call you all kind of names and even threaten your life. Now, watch the manipulation here. Mr. Shambaz, whoever, once the people will not take his brainwashing with enthusiasm, that is, the continual repeating of a phrase over and over and over again. See, what that means is that was not in your head. That means he's putting it in your head, and then he's demanding you to say what he put. And you can see him growing very angry as, well, the natural fire of the people simply is not there. And these are his followers, the ones who come out to hear him and come out for him. But he couldn't get them juiced up enough. And you can see how angry he's getting because he feels as though his brainwashing technique's not taking place. Watch this.
All right, Black Power. No, y'all don't believe in that. I can't believe it. We want justice. Do you want justice? What do we want? Say it like you mean it, man. What do we want?
All right, and now what I want you to do is I'm going to play the film, and please, just don't even pay attention to what he's saying. I want you to look around at all the people that you can see. There's nobody even paying attention to him. I don't know what they came for. They're there because they came for him. But nobody's even paying attention to what he's saying. Watch this.
You are not the ones that we saw on the television screen. You are not the ones that team up with your enemy with blood on the ground, blood on the floor of the church, blood coming out of the bodies of the Charleston 9, the mother Emmanuel 9. Blood on the ground. Blood on the ground. Sitting in the house of God, talking about we shall overcome.
And now one of the loud voices that you hear saying, tell it like it is or whatever, is a woman, if you'll look, you'll see her, with a bullhorn mic. It's all staged, every ounce of it. It's pretentious. It's lies. It is nothing but the sowing of division and death. It is simply not the truth. And the point that I'm making here is this is not black America. Just like it was in the days of the Klan. Black America is not following or falling for this. This is the radicalized group that when it comes to the media are the only ones that get any attention, because the media is the main driving force behind the division that's being sowed in the country. Watch this lady on the bullhorn. Well, that's the loud voice that you hear. A woman with a bullhorn. Listen.
Come on down, tell it like it is.
No, I got to come and tell it like it is. We don't forgive nobody. We ain't forgiving nobody.
No, my friend, this is corruption, this is evil, this is wicked, evil from its core out. No justification in what it's saying. Inciting murder, sowing division so Barack Obama can start a civil war and a race war in this country to keep himself in office. I have no doubt that's what he's trying to do. I urge all Americans, white and black like they did in Charleston, to gather together and pray and come back to your senses again and look to God, or either we're going to pay the price. Like to take a load off of you. Just put it on my back and I'll carry it too. You look like you could use a day or two. Get yourself some rest now, and while you do, I'll carry that load for you. All of these troubles are not yours alone, 'cause you my brothers and my sisters, and this is our home. Won't you take yourself a day or two and get yourself some rest now, and while you do, I'll carry that load for you. That's the way it should be. I help you and you help me. We got to live as brothers. Got to have some love one toward another. I'd like to take a load